You like white girls?
I like all human women, but I like a real American white. You know, I like a white woman listen to Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? Still bump a old throwback Christina Aguilera. I like a Starbucks drinker, frappe or something. Like a regular European, Caucasian, Harvard white type. You know what I mean? But still understand the culture and understand the struggle of the black greatness.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Still understand the culture and understand the struggle of the black greatness.
This is a sick Negro.
So when I was younger, I used to very much judge black men who dated out. I never really heard their side of the story. I didn't really want to hear their side of the story. I just assumed that if a black man dated out, it's probably because he didn't like black women and because he didn't like his mother. Like, if I'm just being honest, that's what I actually really felt. And it was not until I actually started listening or hearing the perspective of other black men that my perspective changed a little bit. And I started to understand that, look, there are certainly black guys out there who just absolutely, totally, completely traffic in self-hatred. I don't think anybody denies that. But that's not always the case. And if I'm honest as a black woman, right, and I understand cultural values, the things I heard growing up, and the different things that a lot of women are being encouraged to do today, I can honestly say many of us aren't being taught how to value marriage. We're not being taught to look and value good, healthy men. When you think of black masculinity, especially as it's portrayed online and in media, which women are impacted by, black masculinity is usually very associated with something criminal, something exciting. There's this trope, right? And we can find ourselves drawn to that trope when we are women, when we were in our younger years, right? We can find ourselves drawn to that bad boy, the one with charisma, the one with excitement, the one that all the other women like, right? That is what we are drawn to. And so, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I believe that there are many black women out there who, in their younger years, they just look over those guys who are studying to be a doctor or college or engineer or studying to be computer science, because they're just not as sexy, right? They don't have, there's nothing exciting about you going to the library after class and studying until midnight. There's nothing exciting about you working, at a restaurant in between or Ubering or whatever. Like, that's not an exciting life. There's nothing exciting about, okay, your first date, he's taking you out for coffee or cookies because he's a broke college student. That's not exciting for a lot of women. And so I think in pursuit of this certain lifestyle, some of us end up overlooking those men who are on their path towards a really good future, on their path towards a bright future, but they're just not there yet because they're your age. And again, I'm not just saying this because I made this up. I've come to this conclusion after having talked to countless men. And even now, I know men in my life who are in college, who are getting spectacular degrees at spectacular colleges, who are tall, who are handsome, who are black, who have, full beards, locks, or just they look the part, but on their free time they're studying, or on their free time they're in the library, and they're not getting all of the attention that you would expect a black man who was, over 6 foot, who's tall, who's attractive, who has a beard, who has the fade or the locks or whatever. They're not getting that attention. And it wasn't until I saw it in my life personally, and I started talking to gentlemen who and on paper seem very qualified, and they're not getting the attention because they're in school, that I started to realize that there is a huge disconnect, right? And of course, this is not the case for everybody. But when I say a lot of us aren't encouraged to pick good, it's not a cultural value, I didn't just make this up. If you think of the color purple, if you think of even just black feminism, if you think of, strong and independent, all these tropes, these are largely associated with black women, associated with the idea of a woman not needing to rely upon a man or not needing to rely upon a male, period, in order to live a beautiful, fulfilled life. So you can at the same time have this desire to be strong and independent, or to be a boss babe, or to hold your own, but then, right, fast forward and then think that you're going to be a family woman. The two are conflicting ideas. So when I say as a cultural value, many of us are not taught how to pick men, or who are not taught how to be able to spot good, valuable men when they're on their way to the top or whatever. That is what I mean, because again, cultural values are strong and independent, taking care of yourself. Look, I had countless women that I know growing up who were telling me, look, get a job, get an education, so that when you can take care of yourself. I heard this multiple times, and so many black women I know have heard this story from their mothers, right? And I get it. A lot of black folks who came from the countryside, who were sharecropping, who had a hard knock life, they wanted to make sure that their kids got an education. They wanted to make sure that their kids could take care of themselves. And so I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad. I'm just saying I think what we weren't prepared for was the feminism, the feminist indoctrination that was coming out of those educational systems that were coming out of that colleges, and what that could mean for the family system, right? And so again, this is why now you have conversations, again, the manosphere, you have conversations about the passport bros, you have these conversations of just men in general who are looking abroad, largely as a result of feminism or what it has done, and largely as a result of men who are just seeing that woman empowerment has created this new dynamic that has very much impacted the relationship dynamic and impacted the way men and women interact. And so ultimately now when I see a black man who dates and marries out, I'm a lot less quick to judge, just because I understand many of the different challenges that are going on in the black community. And now if they're going around just saying all these hating things about black women, then I'm looking at you sideways, right? But if they're just living their life, they found love and they're happy, they're not causing any problems, then good for them. Let them live their life. It doesn't need a ton of scrutiny. It doesn't need explanation. We don't need to call a press conference to try to figure out why. Just let them enjoy their life in peace. And look, like I said, as long as they're not out here hating on black women or hating on the black community, there's no issue. Just let them live their life in peace. And even for black women too, right? I think there has to be a level of honesty of, unless you're black, but you grew up maybe in a particular culture, let's say you're a black Latino or you're African or you're Caribbean or you come from cultures that still have very much held on to their family values, unless you're coming from that perspective, or maybe you just grew up in like a religious setting, right, where you were very much taught strong family values, it's quite likely that you grew up in a generation or two or three, right, where you heard aunts, cousins, moms, friends, whatever, feeding you, pumping you with feminist ideas. It's quite possible. So while I'm not saying that every black woman out there doesn't know how to pick, every black woman out there is picking a pookie and rare, I'm not saying that. We obviously know that there's a market for it. There wouldn't be female rappers. There wouldn't be movies like The Color Purple. We wouldn't be known for being strong and independent. There wouldn't be city girls. There wouldn't be hoochie babies. There wouldn't be all these terms associated with black women being independent, black women being self-sufficient, black women being superwomen, whatever. There wouldn't be all these terms and all these ideas circulating around if there was not an element of truth to it. So again, I'm not saying this as a knock to anybody, and I also am not saying that I believe that black men and black women just can't get together, that all black women are just going out and selling out and sleeping with pookies and rays, and then when they get 40 trying to give over leftovers. Like, I don't believe that. I'm happily married to a black man. I know women who are, and so that's just not always true. I'm just here to acknowledge that two things can be true at once. And I'm just here to acknowledge that there are complications that exist in these relationship dynamics, and it's okay to look at different perspectives so that we can, one, not be so quick to judge, and then two, hopefully address issues that actually might be impeding somebody's ability to get what they want. So anyways, those are my thoughts. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.